King of the deathworld, a human was sentenced to die. Instead, he made history. In the heart of the Galactic Tribunal, a place so pristine it reflected not just light but pride, the atmosphere hummed with anticipation. 1,000 species had gathered. Delegates, dignitaries, warlords, and watchers, seated in a grand amphitheater of polished crystal and ion glass. Floating cameras buzzed like metal bees, recording every breath, every gesture, every glimmer of interstellar justice in action. But no one watched the tribunal today for the law. They watched for the human. At the center of the chamber stood a lone figure encased in a transparent containment field. Tall, broad-shouldered, and still bearing the grime of his capture, Riley Knox looked nothing like the shriveled, weeping criminals who usually stood in that place. His uniform was torn. One eye bore a scar that crossed the brow like a blade's memory. His posture was relaxed, arms at his sides, eyes fixed on the magistrate with a steady gaze that unnerved even the most seasoned diplomats. "Riley Knox," croaked High Magistrate Vlon of the Ventari Clade, his gills flaring with authority. "By unanimous decision under Article 9X of Concord Law, you are hereby sentenced to death by exile. You will be transported to Ravik 7, Class Red Deathworld. You will die there alone as all condemned before you have." The words echoed like thunder. A hush followed. Then the High Magistrate spoke again, a hint of mockery behind the formal tone. "Do you have any final words, human?" Riley's lips parted, but no smile came. Only a calm, calculated murmur. "Yeah, you're going to regret this." The tribunal laughed. They always did. They'd stopped laughing before the end of the first day. Ravik 7. A planetary nightmare no civilization dared colonize. Volcanic thunderstorms raged across its equator, capable of boiling blood in seconds. Its forests teemed with fauna evolved specifically to kill. The air was acidic, the water corrosive. The last 13 exiles had each died in under 2 standard hours. The Terran was dropped from orbit in a standard survival pod. 1 medkit, 1 knife, a packet of protein rations, and a worn-out environmental suit. No weapons, no maps, no hope. The Galactic broadcast feed went live the moment he crashed. The title flickered across screens in 10,000 systems. Dead Man Walking Human Exile Trial, Maritu 380. Bets opened within seconds. 30 minutes, said a Graxian ambassador. 60, replied a Norellian warmonk. 3 hours, max, chuckled an old merchant prince. No one breaks the record. Riley Knox hit the ground hard. Smoke hissed from the cracked pod as the door hissed open. He stepped out, blinked once against the red haze, and looked around like he was inspecting a training ground. His movements were slow, deliberate. His face unreadable. The countdown began. Hour 1. Riley found higher ground, moving fast and low like a predator born for this kind of terrain. He ignored the obvious trails and instead scaled a jagged bluff that offered a 360-degree view of the blistered horizon. Behind him, storm clouds rolled in like smoke from a dying god's lungs. He scanned the terrain, noted mineral deposits, wind currents, fauna movement. He wasn't afraid. He was planning. Hour 3. A pack of Raixian spine lions, massive quadrupeds with armor-plated skulls and venomous quills, surrounded his camp. The live feed glitched. When it returned, Riley sat by a fire, calmly roasting meat. 3 spine lion pelts flapped in the breeze behind him. He'd made spears from bone, traps from vine thorns, armor from hide. The tribunal silenced the feed. A technician whispered, "That can't be right." Day 2. Riley's shelter had evolved. What began as a lean-to was now a reinforced bunker built partially into a lava tube. He'd constructed an air filtration system using local minerals and the broken rebreather from his suit. He wore a full set of armor made from predator remains, complete with a makeshift visor. He moved like a ghost, efficient, unstoppable. He wasn't surviving, he was adapting. Week 1. The betting pool closed. No one dared wager anymore. The tribunal, now under pressure from multiple Concord factions, sent a recon drone to observe the site. The drone vanished before it reached the atmosphere. Later that evening, the broadcast resumed. A crude sign stood at the edge of the camp. "Send another, I could use the parts." That night, Riley stared directly into the feed lens and smiled. Week 2. He'd tamed a beast, a six-legged lizard with camouflage scales and barbed legs. He rode it like a trained mount, using hand signals and guttural clicks. He mapped the region, placing markers and signs. The traps he laid were ingenious, some mechanical, others biological. Some lured, others destroyed. One snared a creature the size of a shuttle and killed it in under 10 seconds. His camp expanded. He was no longer alone. He had a kingdom of blood and bone. Month 1. In the ruins of an old Draxian penal transport, Riley scavenged ancient weaponry and repurposed energy cells. He crafted tools from debris, modified an old plasma cutter into a functioning short-range blaster, and fused it to a bone handle. He slept rarely, ate well, killed effortlessly. He activated the ship's broadcast array, sent a message on an open channel. 5 words. "Nice planet, I'm staying." The message reached every major news feed within hours. The story exploded across the galaxy. No longer a curiosity, now a phenomenon, the human who wouldn't die. Millions watched the Dead Human channel daily. Fan groups formed. Art was created. Songs composed. Some called him a freak. Others called him a god. Some just called him proof. Proof that humanity wasn't what they thought. Month 2. The Tribunal, desperate to control the narrative, declared Riley dead. Official announcement: storm collapse, no body recovered. The galaxy scoffed. They knew better. That night, every major signal was hijacked simultaneously. Riley appeared on screen, bare-chested, scarred, and covered in red Ravikian dust. His hair was longer. A jagged blade rested across his shoulders. Behind him stood the skull of a Ravikian war beast, 7 meters long, crowned with bone horns. He spoke calmly. "You sentenced me to die," he said, "but Earth trained me to live." He raised the skull in one hand. "You think this place is dangerous?" His voice turned cold. "You should visit mine." Then he crushed the skull into shards. The signal went dark. The collapse. The Tribunal faced an existential crisis. Dozens of species refused to honor Article 9X. Concord law fractured, systems seceded, protests erupted. Young warriors across the galaxy invoked Riley's name as a challenge. Could you last a day like the human? Military analysts began to worry. If one Terran could do this alone on the worst world in known space, what could an army do? Earth never responded. And that silence was worse than any threat. Because now everyone asked the same question. What kind of world makes something like him? 6 months later, the feed resumed unexpectedly. No warning, no announcement. Riley stood atop a cliff of black obsidian, now wearing full-body Ravikian armor, polished and plated. In one hand he held a spear of bone and plasma, in the other a banner, not of Earth, of his own making. He looked stronger, calmer, eternal. He pointed the spear at the lens. "This was supposed to be exile," he said. "Punishment." His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow reached across every speaker in the galaxy. This was training. Then he turned and walked away. Behind him, the camera panned to show what he'd built. A fortress of stone and bone perched atop a mountain scorched by fire and time. Beasts patrolled its walls. Traps gleamed. And above it all, a sigil, a human skull over crossed blades. The image froze. Millions stared and understood. You can exile a human. You can send them to hell. But you better pray they don't like it there, because if they do, they won't just survive, they'll conquer. Title: the sentence tagline: You sent him to die. He built a kingdom instead.